The facility smelled like metal and grief. I'd been interviewing veterans for 5 years, but I'd never been to a military storage depot where families came to collect the belongings of soldiers who didn't make it home. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a harsh, unforgiving glow that seemed designed to strip away any possibility of comfort. Thomas Rivera sat on the concrete floor, surrounded by the contents of his older brother's duffel bag, and he hadn't moved in 20 minutes. He was 28 years old, with the same dark eyes and strong jaw as his brother. But where Raphael had been all confidence and swagger, Thomas looked broken, shattered, like someone had reached inside him and pulled out everything that made him solid. "I shouldn't have opened it," he said, his voice barely audible over the hum of the lights. The officer said, "I didn't have to go through everything here. Could take it all home, sort through it in my own time. But I couldn't wait. I needed to feel close to him, needed to touch the things he touched." He held a letter in both hands, gripping it so tightly the paper was crumbling at the edges. His knuckles were white, and I could see his hands trembling. This was in the inner pocket of his uniform, not with his personal effects. Hidden, like he didn't want anyone to find it unless— Thomas's voice broke, "unless something happened to him." I adjusted my microphone slightly, giving him space but making sure I captured every word. Whatever was in that letter had destroyed him, and I needed to understand why. "Tell me about Raphael," I said gently. "Before we talk about the letter, tell me who your brother was." Thomas's face softened slightly, a ghost of a smile appearing and disappearing in an instant. "Raphael was everything I wasn't. Confident, strong, natural leader. Everyone loved him. From the time we were kids, I was always Raphael's little brother. Never bothered me though. I idolized him. Would have followed him anywhere." He picked up a photograph from the scattered belongings. Two boys, maybe 8 and 10 years old, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. Same dark eyes, same smile. This was us before everything got complicated, before the weight of being the oldest son in an immigrant family crushed him, before he decided the only way to prove our worth was through military service. But there was something in Thomas's tone that suggested complexity beneath the hero worship. Our parents came from Mexico when Raphael was 3 and I was 1. Worked 3 jobs between them to give us opportunities they never had. Every sacrifice they made, they'd remind us. Not cruelly, but constantly. "We gave up everything so you could be Americans." That kind of pressure, it shapes you. Thomas set the photo down carefully. Raphael felt it more than I did. He was older. Remembered Mexico, remembered the crossing, remembered the fear in our mother's eyes. He internalized the idea that he owed a debt that could never be repaid. Is that why he enlisted? That's what I thought. That's what everyone thought. Raphael joined the Marines right out of high school. Said he wanted to serve the country that gave our family a chance. Said he wanted to prove that immigrants could be patriots too. Could bleed for the flag just like anyone born here. Thomas's jaw clenched. Our parents were so proud. Finally validation. Their son, a United States Marine. Everything they sacrificed was worth it. You didn't see it that way? I supported him. Of course I supported him. But I also saw what they didn't see, or didn't want to see. Raphael wasn't just proud to serve. He was desperate to serve. Desperate to prove something. To who, I wasn't sure. Our parents? America? Himself? Maybe all 3. Thomas stood up abruptly, pacing the small area between storage lockers like a caged animal. He did 2 tours in Iraq, came home the first time different, quieter, more intense, but still Raphael, you know? Still my big brother who'd ruffle my hair and tell me everything would be okay. The second tour, though, he trailed off, his eyes distant. The second tour broke something in him. He came home and he was hollow, like someone had scooped out everything essential and left just the shell. Our parents didn't see it. Too busy being proud of their Marine son. But I saw it. I saw him staring at nothing for hours. Saw him flinch at car horns and slam to the ground when someone dropped a dish. Saw him drinking alone in his room at 2 in the morning, trying to drown whatever he'd seen. Did you talk to him about it? I tried. God, I tried. But he'd just smile that fake smile and say he was fine, adjusting, normal stuff. Said every veteran goes through it. Said I wouldn't understand because I'd never served. Thomas's voice turned bitter. That last part hurt. Made me feel like I'd failed somehow. Like by choosing college instead of the military, I'd proven myself lesser. Proven I wasn't willing to pay the same price he paid. But everything changed the day Raphael re-enlisted. I found out from our mother. She called me, so excited she was crying. "Raphael's going back. He's deploying to Afghanistan. He's going to be a sergeant." And I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Because I'd been with Raphael 2 nights before, and he'd been drunk and shaking and telling me he couldn't sleep because every time he closed his eyes he saw faces, the faces of people he'd killed, people he'd watched die, people he couldn't save. Thomas stopped pacing, his back against the cold metal of a storage locker. So I confronted him, went to his apartment, and demanded to know why he'd re-enlist when he was barely holding it together. And you know what he said? I shook my head, transfixed by the pain in his voice. He said, "Because I'm good at it. Because over there, everything makes sense. You follow orders, complete missions, keep your brothers alive. Here I'm just broken. There, my brokenness has purpose." That's the exact phrase he used. My brokenness has purpose. The tragedy of those words hung in the air between us. I begged him not to go, told him he needed help, needed therapy, needed to heal before he could serve again. But he wouldn't listen. Said I didn't understand what it meant to serve something bigger than yourself. Said I'd taken the easy path, college and a comfortable life, while he did the hard work of protecting it. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. He made me feel selfish for wanting him to stay alive, made me feel like my concern for his well-being was somehow unpatriotic. When did he deploy? March 2019. I drove him to the base, helped him load his gear. Our parents were there, proud and tearful. Raphael was in uniform, looking every bit the Marine hero they'd always wanted him to be. And I stood there thinking I'd never see him again. Just this certainty in my gut that he wasn't coming home this time. Thomas's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I was right. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of prophecy fulfilled. He died 7 months into his deployment. November 5, 2019. IED during a routine patrol. They said he died instantly, didn't suffer. They always say that, don't they? Like instant death is somehow comforting. Like it matters whether you suffer for 5 seconds or 5 minutes when the end result is the same. I'm sorry, I said. The words inadequate but necessary. Our parents were destroyed, but also somehow proud. Their son died a hero, serving his country. They had a flag to fold and put in a case, had a funeral with full military honors, had people thanking them for their sacrifice, and I stood there feeling like I was the only one who saw the truth, that Raphael didn't die serving his country. He died running from himself, but the real revelation was still coming. I could see it in the way Thomas looked at the letter he still held. The official notification came on November 6th. The personal effects took 3 months to process and ship. I offered to collect them, spare our parents the pain, but my mother insisted on going to the depot herself, said it was the last thing she could do for her son. Thomas picked up the letter again, his hands steadier now but his face ashen. She went through his belongings there in this same facility, packed them up carefully, cried over his uniform, kissed his dog tags. But she didn't find this letter because it was hidden in his uniform's inner pocket, the pocket you'd use for something you needed close but didn't want others to see. When did you find it? Last week. My mother asked me to bring Raphael's uniform to a memorial event. 20 Marines from his unit were gathering to honor their fallen. She wanted to display his uniform, his medals, show everyone who her son was. Thomas laughed, a bitter sound devoid of humor. So I went to get it from storage, and when I picked it up, I felt something in the pocket. This letter. He held it up, and I could see it was written in Raphael's handwriting, the ink slightly faded but still legible. I should have given it to my mother unopened. It was sealed, addressed to her. But I couldn't help it. I had to know what Raphael wanted her to know. Had to have some piece of him, some final message. So you opened it. I opened it. Right here, in this facility, surrounded by the ghosts of other people's sons and daughters and brothers and sisters. And what I read, Thomas's voice broke completely. It destroyed everything I thought I knew about my brother, about our family, about why he served and why he died. He handed me the letter with shaking hands. Read it. You need to read it to understand. I took the letter carefully, aware that I was holding something sacred and terrible. The handwriting was neat but showed signs of emotional distress, slight tremors in the lines, occasional smudges where tears might have fallen. It was dated October 30, 2019, 6 days before Raphael died. The letter read, "Mama, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it home. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's all I have. I'm sorry for the pain this will cause you and Papa. I'm sorry for leaving Thomas alone to carry the weight of being the good son. I'm sorry for all of it, but I need you to know the truth, even if it destroys the image of me you've carried all these years. I need someone to know who I really was, what I really did, why I'm really here. I didn't enlist to honor you and Papa. I didn't join the Marines to pay back America for giving our family opportunities. I enlisted to escape, to run away from something I couldn't face, something I was too ashamed to tell you. When I was 17, senior year of high school, I got a girl pregnant, Maria Gonzalez, you remember her. We dated for 6 months before I ended it. Suddenly, told you we just weren't compatible. The truth is she told me she was pregnant, and I panicked. I gave her money for an abortion and told her we were done, that if she kept the baby I'd deny it was mine, that I'd make sure everyone knew she was trying to trap me. She had the abortion, alone, scared, abandoned by me, and I never spoke to her again. I carried that guilt every day, Told myself I was a monster, that I'd killed my own child to protect my future, to avoid disappointing you and Papa. The shame ate at me until I couldn't see any path forward except to destroy myself in a way that looked noble. So I joined the Marines, not to serve, but to die. Not to protect America, but to punish myself for what I'd done to Maria and our baby. Every deployment, every mission, every moment of danger, I was hoping it would end me, hoping God would decide I'd suffered enough and grant me the death I deserved. But I kept surviving, kept coming home, and each time I came back alive, the guilt got worse, because I didn't deserve to survive when that baby didn't. When Maria had to live with the trauma I'd caused her, the things I did in Iraq, the people I killed, the violence I participated in, none of it was patriotism, it was penance, self-flagellation disguised as service. And when it wasn't enough, when I kept surviving, I re-enlisted, kept putting myself in danger, kept hoping this time would be the time. If I'm dead now, it's not because I died serving my country, it's because I finally succeeded in killing myself in a way that would let you be proud instead of ashamed. I know this will hurt you. I know it destroys the narrative of the hero son who paid the ultimate price, but I can't die with you believing a lie. I was never a hero. I was always just a coward running from himself, hiding behind a uniform and a flag. Thomas deserves to know this too. Tell him I'm sorry for making him feel less than me, for making him think his choices were somehow inferior. He was always braver than me because he chose to live honestly while I hid behind service. I love you, Mama. I'm sorry I wasn't the son you thought I was. Raphael. My hands were shaking as I finished reading. The letter was a confession, a suicide note disguised as a final goodbye, a complete dismantling of everything Raphael's family believed about him. I looked up at Thomas, who was watching me with hollow eyes. You see now? He said quietly. Everything was a lie. The hero narrative, the proud Marine, the patriot son, all of it was just Raphael's elaborate suicide plan. And we celebrated it. We mourned him as a hero when he saw himself as a murderer. Have you told your parents? Thomas shook his head violently. How can I? This would destroy them. Their entire identity for the last 3 years has been built around being Gold Star parents, around their son's sacrifice. This letter would shatter that, would turn their pride into shame, their grief into something worse. But it's the truth, I said gently. Don't they deserve to know who Raphael really was? Do they? What good does truth do if it only causes pain? Thomas started pacing again, his agitation growing. My mother has a folded flag in a case on her mantle. My father tells everyone about his son, the Marine. They've found meaning in Raphael's death, purpose in their grief. This letter would steal that from them, would replace a hero's death with a suicide dressed in camouflage. He stopped, turning to face me directly. And what about Maria? The letter doesn't say what happened to her, where she is now. Should I track her down and tell her that the man who abandoned her in her darkest moment is being honored as a hero, that his family celebrates him while she lives with the trauma he caused? The ethical complexity of the situation was staggering. I've spent a week trying to decide what to do, Thomas continued, his voice rising with emotion. Part of me wants to burn this letter, pretend I never read it, let everyone keep their comfortable lies. But another part of me knows Raphael wrote this for a reason. He wanted the truth known. He couldn't face life honestly, but he wanted to die honestly. What do you think he wanted you to do with this information? Thomas laughed bitterly. I think he wanted to destroy our family one last time, to make sure his pain didn't die with him but got passed on like an inheritance. And it worked, because now I carry it. Now I'm the one who knows the truth and has to decide whether honesty or mercy is more important. He sat back down on the floor, exhausted. You know what the worst part is? I understand him now in a way I never did when he was alive. The self-hatred, the desperate need for punishment disguised as purpose, the inability to forgive himself for a mistake made at 17. I get it, and I'm furious at him for it. Furious that he threw his life away, that he weaponized his suicide by making it look noble, that he left me here to manage the wreckage of the truth while our parents worship a fiction. Thomas's voice was raw with anger and pain. He was my hero too, you know, my big brother who I thought was strong and brave and good, and with one letter he took that away, showed me he was just broken and couldn't find another way to deal with it. But beneath the anger I could hear something else, something that sounded like recognition. You see yourself in him, don't you? I asked quietly. Thomas's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine with startling intensity. What? The self-hatred, the feeling that you don't measure up, the weight of family expectations and immigrant guilt. You understand it because you feel it too. For a long moment Thomas just stared at me, then something in him broke, and he started crying deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from somewhere ancient and dark. I've spent my whole life feeling like a disappointment, he finally said through tears. The son who didn't serve, who chose the safe path, who didn't prove our family's worth through sacrifice. And when Raphael died, that feeling got worse because now I'm the only son left, and I'm the wrong one, the lesser one, the one who survived by being a coward. The parallel to Raphael's letter was striking. Two brothers, both consumed by shame, both feeling inadequate in different ways. Raphael's death gave me purpose, Thomas continued, wiping his face roughly. Gave me a way to matter. I became the keeper of his memory, the one who told his story at veterans events, who spoke to high school kids about service and sacrifice. I built my identity around being the brother of a hero, and now this letter has taken that away too. So what will you do? Thomas looked at the letter again, then at the scattered contents of his brother's duffel bag. Dog tags, uniform, boots that had walked in deserts Raphael would never leave. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Can I tell you what I think Raphael really wanted? I offered carefully. He nodded, desperate for any framework that might make sense of the chaos. I think Raphael wanted someone to know he was human, flawed and broken, and carrying unbearable guilt, yes, but human. The letter isn't meant to destroy, it's meant to free. Free him from the burden of being remembered as something he wasn't, and free your family from the burden of loving a fiction. But it will hurt them, Thomas protested. Yes, but maybe the right kind of hurt, the kind that leads to real grief instead of performative mourning, the kind that honors who Raphael actually was instead of who everyone needed him to be. I leaned forward. Your parents loved their son, not the Marine, not the hero, not the symbol, the boy who was Raphael. They deserved the chance to grieve that boy, even if he was more complicated than they knew. Thomas was quiet for a long time, turning the letter over in his hands. And Maria, that's harder, but maybe she deserves to know too, not to hurt her more, but to release her from any guilt she might carry, to know that Raphael never blamed her, that his choices were his own, that what happened between them was the act of a scared teenager, not a monster. I don't even know where she is. Then maybe that's your answer. Tell your parents. Let them decide about Maria. Let the truth be their burden to carry too, instead of bearing it alone. I paused. Raphael tried to carry everything alone, and it killed him. Don't make the same mistake. Thomas stood up slowly, carefully folding the letter and placing it back in the envelope. If I do this, if I tell them, everything changes. The memorial events, the speeches, the proud veteran parents' narrative, all of it becomes complicated. People will judge him, judge us, judge our family. Maybe, or maybe people will see what I see, a young man in unbearable pain who made terrible choices, but ultimately wanted truth more than glory. That's its own kind of courage. He picked up the photograph of him and Raphael as children, two boys with their arms around each other, smiling at a camera held by parents who hoped for nothing but their happiness and success. We were so simple then, just brothers. Before duty and shame and expectations made everything complicated. You can't go back, I said gently, but you can go forward honestly. That's what Raphael is asking for, not comfort, not lies, just honesty. Thomas packed his brother's belongings back into the duffel bag with reverent care. The uniform folded precisely, the boots placed side by side, the dog tags wrapped carefully so they wouldn't tangle, and the letter placed in his own pocket, over his heart. I'll tell them, he said finally. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Because you're right, Raphael deserves to be remembered as he was, not as we needed him to be. And my parents deserve to grieve their real son, not a symbol. What about you? What do you need? He smiled sadly. I need to forgive my brother for being human, for being broken, for choosing death over asking for help. I need to forgive myself for the same things, for being broken, for feeling inadequate, for surviving when he didn't. That's a lot of forgiving. Yeah, but I've got time. Raphael didn't, but I do. I can carry his truth forward in a way he couldn't. I can live honestly in a way he was never able to. Maybe that's my purpose now, not being the hero's brother, but being the brother who tells the truth. As we walked out of the storage facility together, into afternoon sunlight that felt almost obscene after the fluorescent gloom, Thomas stopped and looked back at the building. You know what I realized reading that letter? Raphael wasn't a hero or a coward. He was just scared. Scared of disappointing people, scared of facing his mistakes, scared of being seen as he actually was, and that fear killed him more surely than any IED. Will you include that in what you tell your parents? I think I have to, because if I don't, if I let them keep believing in the uncomplicated hero, then I'm doing to them what Raphael did to himself, choosing comfort over truth, and look where that got him. We reached my car, and Thomas extended his hand. His grip was firm, purposeful. Thank you, for listening, for helping me see what Raphael was really asking for. What was he asking for? To be seen, really seen, not as a hero or a failure, but as a person who made mistakes and carried them until they crushed him. To be grieved honestly, instead of celebrated falsely. Thomas looked down at the letter in his pocket. I can give him that, even if it's painful, even if it changes everything. I can give him that. I watched him walk to his own car, carrying his brother's duffel bag and the weight of truth. He moved differently than when I'd first seen him, not lighter, but more solid somehow, grounded in reality, rather than floating in comfortable fiction. The letter that destroyed everything Raphael's family believed about him might, paradoxically, be the thing that finally allowed them to know him, to love the real him rather than the constructed him, to grieve honestly rather than perform mourning. As I drove away, I thought about all the Rafael Riveras out there. People carrying unbearable shame, hiding behind service or success, or carefully constructed personas, suffering in silence because admitting struggle feels like failure. How many of them were slowly killing themselves, while everyone around them saw only strength? Thomas Rivera would tell his parents the truth. It would hurt them deeply, challenge everything they'd built their grief upon, force them to reconstruct their memory of their son. But it would also free them to love a real person instead of a symbol, to grieve a flawed human son instead of a perfect fictional hero, and maybe, just maybe, it would save Thomas from following his brother's path, from building his identity on fiction instead of truth, from carrying shame that would eventually crush him. The letter was dated October 30, 2019. Rafael died November 5, 2019. 6 days between confession and death. 6 days when he knew the truth would eventually come out, when he'd set in motion the destruction of his own mythology. That took a different kind of courage than charging into battle, the courage to be known, to be seen, to let truth matter more than comfort. Rafael Rivera wasn't a hero in the way his family believed, but maybe in writing that letter, in choosing honesty over legend, he performed the bravest act of his life, even if it came too late to save him.